Today we're making pumpkin spice sweet potato Dole Whip. And I know when you hear Dole Whip, you get excited, and you hear pumpkin spice, you get excited, and you might be wondering, sweet potato, ooh, well, it makes this recipe. Sweet potatoes are a pantry staple in my house. They don't require any refrigeration. They're really easy to roast and add to foods. They're a great source of vitamin A and fiber. But I love this recipe because it's a way to add a vegetable to a dessert that is traditionally sweet and you can't really tell. So there are a couple of things we're using for this recipe. It takes 5 ingredients. We're using sweet potato, fresh pineapple, which is where a majority of the sweetness comes from. And then we're using 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. We've got another 2 tablespoons of unsweetened refrigerated coconut milk. So this is the carton coconut milk. Just make sure you get an unsweetened one. And then 3/4 of a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. So that's it. It does require just a little bit of work. We'll start with the sweet potato. There are 2 ways you can make your sweet potato. Our recipe suggests that you microwave 1 cup of cubed sweet potato in the microwave with just maybe like a couple of tablespoons of water, cover it with cello wrap, and microwave it for 4 minutes, 3-4 minutes, until your fork comes out soft. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to take your whole sweet potato, and I do this for dinner a couple of nights a week. You just stab it, and you do this so that the air that's inside and the steam can escape when it's being microwaved. So I do this with a fork. You need to be careful, but I've also done this with a paring knife, which goes pretty deep, and you only need like maybe 5 stabs to do this safely. But then you just put this whole potato on a microwave safe plate, microwave it for 5 to 6 minutes. Again, you just want to make sure it's soft all the way through, and that's when your paring knife goes in and out easily. And it doesn't get any simpler than that. So I did that last night with these potatoes. So what we'll do, if you try this method, is just peel the sweet potato, and the skin comes off easily. And it's important to remove the skin because, especially in a dessert like this, that extra fiber isn't going to be pleasant. But normally I would just eat the skin of the sweet potato. And this is completely cooled. So if you're microwaving it, you can do that first and then just make sure it's completely cooled before you start to use it. Now I'll just measure this out into 1 cup dices just so we know we're using the right amount. The key to success with making a Dole Whip, or smoothie for that matter, is just making sure you have the right ratio of liquid to solid. And if you add something that has too much fiber to your Dole Whip, it'll have more nutrition, but it'll be really, really thick, and you may need to use more water. So that's our cup of sweet potato. The next thing we're going to do, and I like to do this on a plastic cutting board because it might get juicy and it's easier to clean up. But we're going to core our pineapple, and I really love using a pineapple core for this because it gives us really nice thin slices that turn into uniform chunks that can freeze quickly, because we need to freeze our fresh sweet pineapple so that we have the sweetest possible pumpkin spice sweet potato Dole Whip. So the core, I think I got for like $12 on Amazon. And you just take a slice off the top, you make sure the center of the core is over the center of the pineapple, And then you just, I'm not really pushing that hard. I'm just trying to make sure that I push evenly through all the way to the bottom. And the hand that's holding it, I can actually feel the other side of this core making its way to the bottom. Okay, so it sounds like I'm hitting the rind. So at this point, all you do is pull it out. So pressing down firmly on the pineapple, I'm pulling out the freshly sliced pineapple. And there's a fair amount of juice down there. And I have to say, since we're like heading into a Halloween season, at this point, you can follow the instructions to make a pineapple jack-o'-lantern, and it makes such a cute centerpiece. So you don't necessarily have to throw out the pineapple. But now we just get the pineapple off of the core. This is a little juicy, and it looks and smells really sweet. But I'm just going to cut this into halves, and then each half into a third, because, and I probably only need to do half because this recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of frozen pineapple. So here I'll measure out with my 1 cup measure. And you can always just freeze the whole pineapple and have the extra ready for your smoothies and stuff. But today I'm just freezing what we need for this recipe. So it's about 1 cup and 3/4. So it's a little more than half of this pineapple. Okay. So sweet. Just move this out of the way. And now I have my prepared baking sheet that we're just going to form a single layer. And get it straight into the freezer. So I just put it in 1 layer like this, and I'm going to put it in the freezer, and I'll get my frozen. So here's my already frozen pineapple. And we'll set up everything else we need. So we have our sweet potato, our pineapple, maple syrup, coconut milk, and pumpkin pie spice. So now all you need is your Vitamix or your food processor. I've tried it both ways and it works really well both ways. The one thing I'll say is with the Vitamix, sometimes you need a lot of volume of food in the Vitamix to really get a good blend. So this recipe I would double if I were using the Vitamix, just so that it very easily becomes smooth. So here, 1 3/4 cups of pineapple, sweet potato, the coconut milk, maple syrup. Here you could use agave if you want to, or honey. You could omit it altogether if your pineapple is really sweet and you're trying to eliminate added sugars, but I think the maple syrup gives it a really nice kind of fall flavor. So I like to keep it. And then the 3/4 of a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. And here we go, I'm just gonna pulse it. And I love these little spatulas because they're the perfect size for your blender or for your food processor to just kind of scrape everything down off the sides. I use them for everything. And you can go as far as you want with this. If you think you might like it a little bit chunkier and have, you know, those sweet bites of pineapple, you don't have to smooth it out all the way, but you know, Dole Whip is usually smooth. So we're just gonna do this a couple of times until we get the right texture. And I think we're there. I think it looks really good. So let me just taste it before I move it out of here. This is your chance to decide, do you want to blend it more? Do you feel like it needs a little bit more sweetness? If you left the maple syrup out, do you want to add it? This just has such good fall flavor. I'm gonna leave it just the way it is, but I do want to serve it so that it looks nice. And I have all my stuff right over here. So for toppings, we have our walnuts and our coconut flakes. These are unsweetened coconut flakes. The really big dried coconut flakes would also make this a really pretty dessert if you have guests over. And then if you really want to make it a whip, you have to pipe it. So the trick for this is to use a piping bag and move the tip all the way to the end of the bag, so you kind of know where you need to cut it. And then just push. Oh my gosh, I knew that was gonna happen. No big deal. We're gonna use I can't believe that just happened. So I'm not going to go as far as I did. I'll go a little smaller. You don't want the tip to fall through the piping bag because that completely defeats the purpose. So just push it down and then make sure it's secure. You can find these at the grocery store. And I love using a cup because I always need an extra hand in the kitchen, and it's really hard to fill a pastry bag without some support. So here, I just kind of have it moved apart so I can easily put my Dole Whip in. Now I'm just going to fill it up. You can see it's thick, it's cool. And then if you need more room, you just kind of zhuzh everything to the bottom and make sure the top of the bag is opened. All right, and that's it. So if you want to do like 2 bigger servings, I like bowls that are this size. And if you want to do smaller kind of taste servings, especially, you know, if you're not sure how it's going to go over, although I know it will be great. I found these little baking cups that I thought were the perfect size to do smaller portions if you have a crowd and, you know, it's not like a dessert for just 1 or 2 people. But I'll do the big ones. And we're just gonna pipe it out. And I probably have enough to do 1 more little one. The texture is really great. It like pipes easily and kind of holds its top. So here's kind of my big portion. You could do a little bit of walnut. I really just love the way the coconut looks. And it maintains the original kind of Dole Whip essence because we're using the pineapple, we're using the unsweetened coconut milk, we're keeping the coconut here, which is such a good complement to the sweet potato and the pumpkin pie spice. So there we have it. I won't eat the pretty one, the plain one, but it's such a good fall dessert. And it includes a fruit and a vegetable. So let me know if you try this at home. I would love to know how your family liked it and if you loved it as much as I did. Talk to you soon.